A suicide attack in the northern Syrian city of Aleppo has killed a police officer. Local authorities say police were chasing an attacker who was trying to enter a Christian neighborhood when he detonated an explosive belt. The man was reportedly a member of ISIL who wanted to target a church. At least 2 other people were injured. The bombing is the latest in a series of violent attacks that have challenged the government's efforts to unify the country. And the deadline for Kurdish SDF fighters to fully integrate into the Syrian army has now passed. Syria says that talks with the group have produced no tangible results. Turkiye says that it backs Damascus if Damascus chooses now to move against the SDF, the Syrian Democratic forces. So let's speak to Al Jazeera's Resul Serdar in Damascus about both those things. First of all, that suicide bomb attack in Aleppo, Resul, that's Syria's second largest city. What happened and what have you learned?
Well, one of the ISIL members has blew himself up at Bab al-Faraj in Aleppo. But so his aim was ultimately to reach to the Greek Orthodox Church and to blow himself up there. So he was aiming to target a worship place, a religious site of a Christian minority in Aleppo. And while he was trying to do that, attempting to do that, he was stopped at a checkpoint, and then he could not make his way there. Then he blew himself up there, and as a result, he was dead. And then one member of the security forces was killed, and another 2 were injured. So these ISIL attacks, the sleeping cells of ISIL across whole Syria, are now a huge national security threat for the new Syrian government. We are seeing from time to time that they are targeting, in some cases directly the security forces, in some cases the minorities here. And that's a huge challenge for the government here, that is saying that the ultimate goal now, as particularly the country is in the phase of the transitional period, is to achieve the national unity. And definitely these kind of attacks targeting the minorities, targeting the differences here, are creating really dangerous fault lines here. However, the government say they are meticulously following that up. A new element is that now, after the fall of Bashar al-Assad, the new Syrian government is having coordinated efforts with CENTCOM, with the USA. And in the last couple of months, particularly, we have seen that these joint coordinated efforts have intensified. Both Americans and the new Syrian government, almost on daily basis, they're raiding over the sleeping cells of the ISILs, and definitely that is triggering that kind of desperate attempts of ISIL.
Resul, achieving national unity, as you mentioned, is going to continue to be a massive challenge for the new Syrian leadership, new Syrian president Ahmed al-Sharaa. One of the aspects of this is that Kurdish-led forces, the SDF, that control Syria's northeast, by the way, they control a massive part of the country. They had until the end of last year, that means until last night, to integrate into Syria's national army, and they have not. So what happens now?
Well, now, having a control over the northeast of the country is definitely the most important challenge that the Syrian government is facing. We are not talking about one province or one city, one town, a tiny area. We're simply talking about 1/3 of whole Syria. It's starting all the way from Deir ez-Zor, from the Iraqi border, and up to the Turkish border. It's a huge, vast area here. And this area is quite rich when it comes to the energy resources, the agricultural resources. And in terms of the demography, it is hosting millions and millions of people, Arabs, Syriacs, Turkmens, and Kurds. And last year, in March, so the SDF, Kurdish-led SDF, which was the main ally of the USA during the fight against ISIL, has agreed to integrate its forces to the new Syrian army here. That was the promise. However, now the Syrian government is saying that they have never been keen to implement it. Agreeing on something is another thing, but implementing that agreement is another. And as of now, there has been almost no practical steps that were taken by the SDF. SDF is still preserving all of its military forces. There are a couple of sticking points here. Now, SDF is saying that, well, let us to keep 3 divisions, each of them 15,000, and in total, they're asking to keep 45,000 troops over there. And Damascus saying that that will mean two parallel armies in a country, and that is unacceptable. That's one of the sticking points. Another sticking point is that who is going to control the border lines along the Turkish border? Turks, Ankara are furious about the idea that SDF, which Turkey regards as the PKK's offshot in Syria, that will control its border line. And now it's in a stalking point. Now the Syrian government is saying that the responsibility bears with the SDF, and they're saying that if SDF drag the foot not to implement this agreement, then ultimately that could be a military operation joined both by Ankara and Damascus.
Resul Serdar reporting from the Syrian capital, Damascus. Thank you very much, Resul.
Don't miss out, get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.